up, guys, and welcome to another video. We're continuing with our 5.2 build that we got going on right here. Last time we left off with everything stripped down and disassembled. So we're going to get right into this video. We're going to start by cleaning our block. I already went ahead and wiped down some of the outside because it was covered in grease. But we're starting with what really is step one, and that is to scrape off your gasket. Your old head gasket, I should say. I use, putty knife, little metal putty knife, one that doesn't have a razor sharp edge. It's pretty flat, but it's not razor sharp. You won't cut yourself on it. Oh, you can't see my hand. You won't cut yourself on it. So it's not sharp, but it's very flat. I like to use a putty knife like this because you won't risk scoring or scratching your head surface. But look at that, you'll just start peeling off that stuff like cake. Now you want to try and avoid not getting all that shaving crap into your holes, but if some falls in there, don't worry. You'll see there's a lot of steps to cleaning a block thoroughly, unless you have like a hot tank, which I don't, and I'm not gonna take it to the machine shop because I don't have a truck to take it to the machine shop even if I wanted to. So that being said, we're gonna do this by hand, so follow along and let's start with step one. Gasket residue scraped off, I'm just going to go ahead and continue degreasing this with some simple green concentrate, and I'm just going to let it soak. Let it soak for about a minute or two, and then I'm going to take my rag and I'm just going to scrub away at it. So that's basically the game plan for now. It probably goes without saying, but you can use your putty knife to get all gaskets cleaned off, for the most part. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing on the oil can. Alright guys, now that we got those gaskets scraped and cleaned off and the engine mostly degreased, we're going to get working on cleaning out all of these ports and these threads. And what I use for that is this nifty little thing right here, engine brush kit. Get it at Harbor Freight. You can probably get it on Amazon. Get it wherever you need to get it. Probably AutoZone even has them. I mean, they're literally just bristles with a little screwdriver attachment thing, right? So, you see the picture here. Somehow you just need to get something to get into all these things and clean up those threads, get any of the gunk, rust, crud, especially in the coolant passages. If there's ever been anything other than coolant or distilled water in them. Oh yeah, I don't know why that's on the other side. I'll show you when I flip it over, but if you ever run anything other than coolant or distilled water, they get super crusty, so you're going to want to get all the barnacles out of there. And I bought myself a new kit just so you guys could get a good example of what you're looking at. And I needed it. I did need it. But before I use my new kit, I'm actually going to use my old one. This has already gone through a couple of engine cleans here. I've done cleaning heads with them. Pause on that. You know what I mean. I've cleaned some cylinder heads with those. I've done some blocks with it, passages, like I'm about to do here. So, reason why I'm going to use this one instead of the brand new one is this is pretty sludgy. I figure, let me see how clean I can get it with my old pits. Toss them, get them out of here, and then I'm going to use my fresh kit right here. Go back through and just really get everything nice and clean. Okay, I just flipped this block over, and now I can show you the coolant passages, and I can show you an example of a barnacle. Can you see that there? Little barnacle growing off the side. If you can see in there, some barnacles there. You know, honestly, there's really not. There's some barnacles in that one, right there. But this block is pretty clean. It didn't really ever have hose water ran through it, because you would know if you had an iron block with hose water, you would know. You can see there's a little bit of rusting going on there, so maybe it had distilled water and not enough coolant, or maybe it did have a little bit of hose water mixed in, but the barnacles, oh, there's a barnacle right there. The barnacles are very minuscule, so then back to this bigger barnacle here. To get rid of it is simple. We're just going to scrape it off. Yep. Clean it up. Just brush it. And no more barnacle. Now I'm going to go around and I'm going to just do that to all of these coolant passages. But you can see that barnacle. I mean, I know they're not called barnacles. I like to call them barnacles. Do you see it there? Alright. Scrape that up. Oh. Got a little too close to the... Got some debris in my face. And voila. Well, I just dragged the block outside and I rinsed it out with the hose. And here's the deal. It's an iron block. So you do need to rinse it out, and how are you going to do it? Power washer, hose, that's basically your options. But without wasting too much time, what I want to discuss here is how rust develops on these iron blocks very quickly. So rinse out your ports, and then like immediately just start hand drying everything. You don't, and get the air compressor out too, because we're going to air compress and blow out all these ports and holes and whatever you want to call it here in a minute too. So yeah, I just wanted to pick up the camera, quick service announcement. See all that? That's surface rust. Look at how quick, and oil. Some of it's old oil too, and carbon. But that's how fast surface rust can pick up on these iron blocks. Now, don't panic if you do get a little surface rust in some areas. You don't need to panic. It's not that hard to polish a little surface rust off, so keep that in mind. But what will screw you up in the end is if there's any bristles left in there, any big chunks of debris. So that's why I'm saying we got to do our due diligence here. We got to clean this block as best as we can. If we find any grease, let's get the grease. If we find any rust, if we find any barnacles, let's just do what we can here, people. So I'm going to dry this thing off, and then I'll show you once it's all dried off what I'm doing next. Okay guys, I think I'm happy and satisfied with how clean I got all these coolant ports and oil passages. So now I'm going to take a brass bristle brush and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lightly clean out my lifter ports. You don't want to use the steel brushes. You could use the plastic ones, but don't use the steel. Either use plastic or the brass, because it's a much softer metal than this cast steel or whatever it is in there, so you won't do any damage with this, but you'll scuff it up pretty severely if you use those steel ones. The steel ones are great for everything else, so you can get your oil passages with it, you can get your coolant ports, so just keep that in mind if you're going to clean your lifter galleys or lifter portholes. I don't even know what the hell you want to call them, but you clean those, just use a brass brush. Well guys, I think I'm going to leave it here for tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a nice rinse with some brake clean and evacuate while the fumes fumigate so I don't lose too many brain cells, and we'll get back to it in the morning. So here we go. Alright guys, we're back. It's the next day. I got some 400 grit sandpaper here. I'm just going to start cleaning up the head gasket mating surface, and sandpaper really gets all the little pits and little leftover gasket, dirt, all that stuff off really well, so that's what I recommend. Use some 400, 600, get it clean. Well, before we clean the block for its final time and start to reassemble things, we need to get these cam bearings out. And in order to do that, we got a tool here, special order from Amazon. It's a cam bearing puller, or I guess not puller, remover slash installer. We're gonna see how this works. We're gonna give this a shot. Basically, you got your cam journals here. Stick it through. Got a little centering cone, keeps it centered, which is hard to do one-handed, but yeah, basically you're just gonna, well, first we're gonna start with this back one. We're gonna pop that cam plug out, but get that plug out, and then we just adjust it with this adjustable end up here to get the thing to expand to the size we need for whatever bearing we're installing or removing, and we just hammer it out. Let's give it a shot. This is that cam plug right here that we're going to be popping out in a second. So I'm going to start by popping this out, then we're going to remove this back bearing, and then we're just going to continue on getting all these bearings popped out. So as you tap it with your hammer, you're going to use one hand to lock in that centering cone, and that'll keep you centered as you hammer out your bearing. Okay, I got the cap off at the back of the cam, so now I need to figure out which bearing size thingy-majigger will fit. So let's see, is this it maybe? Yeah, we expand that one. I think that's the one right here. Alright. Now I gotta put this on the tool and expand it. Alright guys, I can say this tool successfully did its job. We got the first bearing out. Now I just gotta get the rest of them out. That was definitely nerve-wracking, I'm not gonna lie. But hey, one down, 4 to go. Okay, once you get it adjusted, you want it to be not so easy to come in and out. You want that rubber to grip. Make sure that your edges are not protruding past the bearing and how it's seated. And then just gotta grab grab the hammer and start smacking it. Alright, now we can finally start working towards reassembly. We still need to clean this again. Super tedious. You gotta clean these things super thorough. We gotta clean it again. Then we're gonna take things off. We're gonna paint the block. And once that's done, it's time for reassembly. I do need to order a new cam cap now, I believe. I don't think we were supposed to reuse those. I'll look into it. If I can reuse it, then I'll reuse it. I mean, it looks fine. It's got a couple little ding marks there. But, I mean, it looks alright. So I gotta figure out if I can reuse that or if I need to get a new one. But other than that, I'm pretty sure we have all the parts. So. Alright, I am back. It's the next morning and I'm ready to go. Let's get started on today's mission. Step 1. I got some 1200 grit sandpaper here, and I'm just gonna go over all the surfaces where the bearings seat and give it a nice little polish. Same with the cam. And then after that, we gotta clean and finally paint this thing. So, yep. Gonna go ahead and tear a little piece off and then start polishing. I just got done giving it its final clean, so I rinsed it with the hose at the end, and now I gotta towel dry it quickly because this is an iron block, so we gotta dry it off quickly. Okay, after towel drying it as much as I could, I'm gonna go ahead and use this air nozzle and blast off any more remaining water and get all this water out of all these ports, out of all these crevices. As you can see already, it's gonna slightly change color, tint, because iron and water just does not mix. Dry overnight, so let's take some tape off of here and take a look at a paint job. Nice and glossy, smooth finish, some good paint. Went ahead and did the dipstick, little added touch there. But yeah, happy with it. Well, let's dive into these old parts and see what the engine wants to tell us. We'll start with these cam bearings. As you can see, they're smoked. They are all very discolored, very worn out. As you can see, they're just all around burnt out. Moving on to our main bearings. Some of them are better than others, but for the most part, like this one, the thrust one is a little worn out, but for the most part, they're alright. So, crank is good, these are good, here to our lifters. Most of them seem fine, actually. None of them have any markings or anything like that, so lifters actually look fine. Push rods, none of them are bent. Easy way to tell, just get a flat table, roll it. As long as it's not moving around like this and being all crazy, then, you know, it's not bent enough to hurt, at least. Rockers, we cleaned them, they're all good. So then, maybe you're wondering, well, where was the issue then? Was it the rods? Or the rod bearings? Here's the perfect example of what these rod bearings look like. This extension cord out of the way here. As you can see, they were starting to show the copper, so very worn down. But once again, pretty decent. I wouldn't worry about it. The crank where the rods connect was totally fine, no scratches or markings, and same with where the main sat, no scratchings or markings, so all that's great. But now, this is what brings me to kind of an expensive issue. So that brings us to what the issue was, which is, let me grab my camshaft here. There is some issues with this. Let me bring the camera in closely so I can show you. Let's find a good example here. Right here. That's a pretty good example of a cam lobe. That's, you know, a little worn, but no major issues. And then if you roll over here and take a little look, what do we have here? Can you see it on the camera? Kind of. Very chewed up. Very chewed up. Like pitting in there, chewed up. Then you keep coming down here, which is ironic because you wouldn't think it would be the front. You would think it'd be the rear that would probably have more issues. But if you come over here, look right here. See this one? And then you look at this one. What the heck is going on there, huh? What happened there? And some of these lobes actually have been almost flattened and taken away some of their nub. Here's a perfect example of one that is just catastrophically chewed up. And I just don't even understand how these lifters actually look as decent as they do when, you know, this is what the cam was going through. So what does this mean then? Well, this means I'm out like another $400 or $500 pretty much because I need a new cam. But what's the point in getting a new cam if you don't upgrade it? So we're not going to be getting a stock cam. We're going to get a comp cam, or we'll see what Jags or Summit has to offer. Something that is moderate, because this truck will still be doing a lot of truck stuff. So towing, you know, long steady speeds on the highway, those kind of things. We're not building no dragster race truck. I mean, it's got four-wheel drive. I'm keeping the four-wheel drive. So, you know, that's kind of stuff is, I'm not playing no games with getting rid of any of that stuff. Alright, let's make sure the deck of our block here is nice and straight, not warped. I have my machine straight edge here, a tool I ordered on Amazon, and a filler gauge. I need to look up what the specs are still to make sure that we're in our specifications or allowed tolerance. And then I'll get back to you and Okay, I'm back and I got the specs. So basically your allowed warpage is anywhere from 0.02 to 0.04. Or in millimeters, that is 0.05 millimeter to 0.1 millimeter, or 1/10 of a millimeter. So we're gonna stick it with the thinner of the two, which is the 0.02, and we're gonna make sure this thing hopefully isn't warped. So let's see here. We'll start in the middle. Awesome. Good. Perfect. Alright, let's go just a little bit more diagonal this time. So you're basically going to measure this like crisscross and then straight on. We just did kind of a straight on, but we'll do it again. So there we go. We're good. Good. Oh, this is perfect. Awesome. Let's check. Whoops. Come on, man. Oh, good paint. All right. Careful next time. Good. 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 Perfect. Okay, this one will be trying perfectly straight in the middle as we can here. All right. Yep. 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 Cool. Now we're gonna do it like this. We're gonna go over each cylinder. Good. Good. And just keep going along the cylinders. Perfect. Well, this is awesome. This block is very straight. It's perfect in reality. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and spin this and we're gonna check the other side. The reasoning for what we just did there is to make sure that when we mate our head to the block, that the head gasket will do its job and we get a perfect seal. So you definitely don't want to skip out on that step, because it would really be a shame to go through all that hard work to find out that you just got to strip everything back down again because your head gasket won't seal. So that's just a, public service announcement there. Don't skip over that step. It's important. Well guys, luckily for honing your cylinders, you won't need any crazy tools. Matter of fact, all you really need is just a cordless drill, or even if you got a corded drill, all you need really is a power drill. So you need a power drill. You're going to need something to lube up your cylinder walls with, like engine oil would be perfect, or if you don't have engine oil, if you got some ATF around, ATF is perfectly fine too. Actually, ATF might even be a little bit better for this type of job. So I'm going to use the ATF fluid I got there, and I'm going to get a rag and I'm just going to coat the insides of this side, because I'm just going to do this side first. Coat all the insides up nice and thick with some ATF there, and then I'm going to get going. So let me get you guys on some time lapse and let's get this banged out. That all of our cylinders are honed and refreshed, we got to get these cam bearings installed. And I'm going to go ahead and throw my cam bearings in the freezer because, well, getting them cold helps install them. So I'm going to let those hang out in there for a couple hours, and we're going to smash them in here. Well, not smash them. Hopefully install them properly, very delicately. Yep, I'm going to go ahead and make sure these are all clean still. Okay guys, off camera I just went ahead and got the rear cam bearing installed. Came out good. If you look here, get this light down here, you can see the oil hole is lined up. and no scoring or scratching on the bearing from installation. So perfect. Everything went smooth. Now I got to do it 4 more times, and hopefully all these will go smooth as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and grab a rag, and I'm just gonna clean up. I'm cleaning each bearing journal or whatever. I'm cleaning each one of those as I go. So I'm gonna grab a rag and some cleaner and just wipe those out real quick, and then I'll set the camera down and get another one of these pressed in. Alright guys, let's talk about these cam bearings here. So there is a specific bearing for each hole, obviously. Or maybe not obvious, because these ones do look very similar, the 3 in the middle. This one's obviously different. But when you get cam bearings, they will label them for you. Camera won't really focus on that, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all labeled, and the bearings are all each individually stamped. So what you do is you find the stamp, which looks like right here. Yep. Can you see it? Yeah, you can't read it, but you can see it. Basically, that's the stamping. So I just need to, before I install it, I gotta go over here. We're doing number 4, it's B199. I just need to verify that this is B199, and it is B199, so they are in order. That's good. Alright. We can compare the two together, side by side, old and new. Just make sure that they're the same diameter, pretty much same all around. They should be. They're standard. These are standard, so they should be the exact same. Also, these bearings, not all bearings, apparently. I don't know. I've only installed, this is my first time installing cam bearings, but I've been watching videos, and apparently some cam bearings only have 1 tapered edge. See how it's tapered there, kinda? Can you see that? This one has 2 tapered edges, so I guess it probably doesn't matter which way you beat it in, but you want to insert it tapered edge first. That way it helps it go in more smooth. But these bearings are already warming up now because they've been out for like not even 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and put them back in the freezer. Let them get ice cold again. Nerve-wracking for sure. Let's see how it... Alright guys, we got another one of those little beautiful brand new cam bearings installed. And if you look through the hole, you can see we got that oil galley lined up just perfect. Alright guys, we're going to be doing our main bearings for the crank here. I got some Engine Tech mains. Here's the part number if you guys are interested. Got the bearings here. Got the crank all cleaned up. So we got to go install the bearings into the block side here in just a second. And then we're going to do a little plasti gauge measurement, make sure that our clearances will be good. So let's go ahead and start slapping some bearings on. When you're taking these out of the package for the first time, they're going to be covered in some like WD-40 or some kind of lube or whatever to protect them from rusting. So grab a clean rag and just gently clean them off, because you don't want that residual oil being on the bottom side of your bearing. And you might want to just make sure there's no dirt, debris, metals, anything from them machining these that might be left on there. So rag, a little glass clean, whatever. Just get it clean real quick before you put them in. Alright guys, we got the crank in place. Plastic gauge, measure out some of the clearance on these bearings as many as we could. I couldn't do these two because I don't want it falling in those oil holes, so we'll skip those two for now. I'm going to do these ones. We're going to get all the main caps placed in, torqued down to spec, and then we're going to make sure our clearances are good. So I got to get those main caps placed. Just got done looking up the torque specs, and it looks like the final torque is 85 foot-pounds, so I guess I'm going to start this. I'm going to do this in like 3 intervals. I'll do like 30, 60, 85, and then we're going to undo it and check our gapping, and hopefully everything will look appropriate. So let's do this. Oh, and obviously work center out is the way to go, so don't forget that. As you can see, our plastic gauge got squished, so now we can get a reading on our clearance. And from what I'm gathering here, I got it in inch, point of an inch or whatever. Not using metric. I think you probably can't see it on the camera very well because I have a GoPro. Sorry for that, but I think it's basically, it's right around 0.003. Check on this one right here. That one might be a little closer to 0.002, but it's in between 0.002 and 0.003, so we'll say it's 0.002.5. And then on our other one here, we got about, right about the same, 0.003, yeah, 0.003, so all in all, I would say this is good. We got good clearance. Fresh bearings, good clearance, that's cool. Now I have to clean up all this plastic gauge mess on these bearings and clean all that gunk off. I'm gonna also double check my measurements on this side of the bearing, and then yeah, let's get this crank lubed up and torqued down.